Okay, we are good to go.
Well, as I think I mentioned to you, I came here in 1957. In fact, I was going to major in broadcasting and realized they had a theater major, so I changed my mind. And I went to the first open house that the group, the Eastern Michigan college players, they were still a college then, and it was in Starkweather because Quirk wasn't here yet.
Oh.
And then I read for Androcles and the Lion, played the Centurion, and we auditioned at McKinney Hall, and we rehearsed over there too. It was really amazing at that time because you talk about the wondrous thing about Quirk Theater.
Yeah.
We had the orientation in Starkweather, the tryouts and rehearsals were in McKinney, but the costumes were in the basement of Welsh Hall. And they had been building the scenery in the basement of Welsh Hall, but that fall Strong opened.
Okay.
And so we were able to build the scenery in Strong. It still had to be transported.
Yeah, that's a lot of buildings for a lot
And
of
the
different
props and
things.
things were on storage closets on the second and third floor of Pierce Hall.
Okay.
And the faculty offices were in the, actually what is in the hallway. They had
Okay.
2 cubicles built.
Wow.
With a little hole between the 2 of them with a telephone. 3 people had to share the offices. They were really small too.
I bet.
And they had to share the telephone. Well, then the second show was Hedda Gabler, which was still in Roosevelt, and I played George Teasman. And then we had auditions for The Man Who Came to Dinner, and I had the opportunity to play Sheridan Whiteside, who's the lead. I really enjoyed that. And I think I mentioned the week of the show I got the 3-day measles and missed a couple of rehearsals, and I did get over in time to come back, but I was pretty exhausted after that.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
The last show of the season was a student-directed cutting of Pyramus and Thisbe from Midsummer Night's Dream, and then an opera directed by the music department, but George Bird did the stage blocking.
Okay.
And then there was the banquet of the second annual banquet, and I got the Best Actor award that year. And then we opened in the fall with 3 student-directed one-acts, still all of this taking place in all of those locations we mentioned.
Right.
It was in the fall of 57, when I was here, that we had the groundbreaking for Quirk.
Okay.
And it took over a year to put it together.
Okay.
But in these 3 one-acts, I was in the third of the 3, which was an O'Casey farce, and I had the distinction of saying the last line of the show, and it was the last line of the night, and it was our last line in Roosevelt.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, our makeup room in Roosevelt was the cafeteria. So I mean, everything was everywhere on campus.
What was the line? Do you remember?
My God, woman, can you do nothing right? I'm pretty sure that was. See, this house has, presumably, the cow is on the roof.
Okay.
Because it's one of those taking place in Ireland, where built on a hillside.
Right.
And these 2 guys claimed they could do the work in the house better than she did. And she said, "Oh yeah, well she goes out to the field." Well, they're having all kinds of problems in the house, and the cow starts moving. So they tie a rope around a chair, but it's still, so the 2 of us are trying to pull it back.
Right.
And at that point, she comes in, and he says, "Oh," and let's go, and I go up the chimney. And then finally come down. And, well, he says, "My God, woman, can you do nothing right?" All right, so that was the last show in Roseville. Then, of course, the auditions were still in McKinney, the rehearsals were still in McKinney till we got right near the end. And there's a lot of stuff in this book on the Crucible. Here's a picture of the theater as it looked at that time.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. You can definitely see how much they've expanded because like these
Oh, yeah.
those are all walls now with classrooms too.
And it was a the program was more than it's insert and of course there's a lot of pre-stuff for the show, but it's also opening the theater.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff here, the dedication of the building. There's the president of the college and the people who, the daughter of who was the wife of the governor of Michigan at the time.
Oh wow.
And it was her father for whom the building was named.
Okay.
And so there's a picture, and of course this is on the dedication. And here's a picture of the stage before we did the first show. And you can see, well, it's new.
Yeah.
Quite new.
Yeah.
And there's still more information on it. Here's another picture at the dedication. And now there are more reviews for this show because of the fact that it was the first. Kennedy did one again, but Ypsilanti Daily, she was from Ann Arbor,
Okay.
Ann Arbor News,
Oh, wow.
Ypsilanti Press, but the Detroit Free Press came out.
Oh wow.
And their reviewer at the time was J. Dorsey Callahan, and who was I never met him, but he was a kind reviewer, and he appreciated college productions, and he put them in the right perspective. Now, I'm sure he had to leave before the show was over to meet the deadline, but he was here.
Wow.
And one of the curious things that happened during the opening, the dedicatory speaker was Dr. John Gassner, who was a well-known author, critic, teacher, professor, and from Yale University. And you might know that in January he flew in and the fog prevented him landing here, so he had to land in Cleveland. And so someone had to go and get him. And so he was not able to do the things before the show that he was going to do. We did, in the Quirk Lounge the next day, he did have a question-answer session. And he did give a speech, although unfortunately he read it.
Yeah.
He read the whole speech, but but his session that was question-answer was very stimulating.
Yeah.
And we enjoyed meeting him. But we weren't able to attend some of the pre-show things that normally we would have attended because he wasn't here yet. He got here in time to see the show, I think.
Well,
But the pre-show things we were going to be part of, we couldn't,
Yeah.
because we were in the dressing room getting ready for the show.
Alright.
We had two Mary Warrens. Mary Warren got the chicken pox before the show, so they had to rehearse a sub who did two of the shows, and then the original one came back and did the final two. They both did a nice job, I might add.
Yeah, especially if you have to get a sub like that last minute, if she was able to, do even adequately.
Well, it can be something.
Yeah.
I was in a show at Wayne State one time, and they said, "Oh, the milkman can't be here tonight." We were actually doing two shows on a Friday afternoon and evening, and then a final performance on Saturday evening. So the milkman has an emergency; he can't be. So we've got a sub who can do this afternoon show. Can you work with him?